afternoon, brethren.
Amen.
We're going to start a study to see the importance of having a prophet amongst us. A prophet who will lead the people into the soon coming kingdom. Why does God need a prophet around us? This is the reason that we have to search in the scriptures to see, is it really safe for us to be without a prophet? And we can start from Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. Proverbs 29, verse 18.
18.
Right?
Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Right.
But he that keepeth the law, happy is he.
Where there is no vision, visions are given to prophets. As you know, Sister White had so many visions.
Yes.
Some visions come as a vision, or God can communicate through a dream. So where there is no vision, the people perish. Is it true?
Yes.
For us not to perish, we need someone who is used by God as a prophet amongst us as a people. We want to research the scriptures to see what was the advantage of having a prophet in the people of the old days, the Old Testament, where there was a prophet, and also in the time of the early Christian church. We saw that there were disciples. Paul was there. There were visions, isn't it?
Yes.
And also in the time when Sister White started the church in 1844, she was a prophet. She had visions. And what was the advantage to the people around where there is a prophet? And the scripture says where there is no prophet, people perish. Right. We will start from Hosea. Hosea chapter 12, verse 13. Hosea chapter 12, verse 13.
Verse 13.
Verse 13, yes?
And by a prophet,
Yeah?
the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt.
Right.
And by a prophet was he preserved.
You see? That verse says, by a prophet, they were brought out of Egypt.
Yes.
And by a prophet, they were preserved. Amen. Did they need preservation?
Yes.
Why wouldn't they take cover on themselves? I can see nowadays people have a lot of money to hire security guards to build expensive gates. Yeah? So that nobody touches the gates. Some are electrified gates. But here we are being told the Israelites were preserved by a prophet. But not a gate, not security, not anything, not any monetary thing. God made sure his people were protected by a prophet. It's a powerful quotation, isn't it?
Yes.
By a prophet, they were sent out of Egypt. Now, we want to know if there was no prophet in Egypt, yeah? If there was no prophet in Egypt, the Israelites wouldn't have put blood on their doorsteps. Nobody would have communicated that to them. Yeah?
Yes.
They were there in Egypt in bondage. Yeah? Laying bricks. Nobody was communicating to them. But when God wanted them to move out of Egypt, he did not inspire any individual. He had Moses as a prophet. Amen. He came to Moses in the wilderness where he was herding cattle and the bush was burning. For him to communicate, to prepare Moses to do that job, he had to take all the pains to have Moses prepared to become a prophet. You understand? Before he instructed Moses to liberate the Israelites, Moses knew he was going to liberate Israelites. But look at what he did. He killed an Egyptian.
Yeah.
That was not the way. Look at what he did when he was in Pharaoh's mansions. He was in a royal family, Pharaoh's royal family, isn't it? He was sent to learn all the languages, all the degrees, all the skills into his head. But that did not qualify him to be a prophet. Because when he was so educated, you understand, he killed an Egyptian. So it proves education will not qualify you to do this job. It's only when God has an inspired prophet that the job is done. Yeah? And this is the reason why God took Moses out into the wilderness, into herding cattle, to unlearn all those degrees. I've heard people saying, I've got a doctorate, I've got a what degree in what PhD and whatever, so I'm capable. You know what? Moses had to unlearn those things for 40 years. So that he was qualified to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Amen. So by a prophet who was now unlearned, God removed Israel from Egypt. Amen. He did not train Moses in any rabbinical schools to make him qualify to lead Israel. He did not do that. He actually made him unlearn all the things that he knew. And he went to herd cattle, to herd sheep, to understand how a sheep behaves, how a cattle behaves, so that he is qualified to lead the people. Amen. By a prophet, Israel went out of Egypt. And by a prophet, Israel was preserved. You know what? The ways of God are so stupid at times to the people who think they are wise. You remember, they were supposed to walk only 2 days out of Egypt to Canaan. But how many days did they walk? 40 years. Until they learned to honor and receive instructions from a prophet. If they believed Moses was a prophet, it was going to take 2 days to go to Canaan. But because they were being subjected to a learning which they did not qualify, until only those who are below 20, who knew how to obey a prophet, went into Israel. And when God puts a prophet amongst the people, the prophets find so many learned people. The prophet is not recognized by your own eye. Huh? The prophet is spiritually discerned that this is a prophet. I'm not here to announce myself as a prophet. No. I did not even mention anybody's name. Yeah? Yes. But the prophet will be spiritually discerned. Only the spiritual eye will know that this is a prophet. Wise people and philosophers and everything will never understand that this is a prophet. That's how Moses was. When he was sent to lead Israel out of Egypt, there were the Korahs, there were the Datans, they were all qualified to go in the pit and be buried, instead of receiving instructions from Moses. There are so many learned that we measure with our own cups, thinking these are the ones that are supposed to lead us. But God will surprise you. Because God concentrates in the heart and not on the... You remember when Samuel was sent to pick a leader of Israel, which was in the sons of Jesse. You remember? Samuel also did not know which one was going to qualify amongst all the 7 that had been prepared by Jesse to say these of these 7, they definitely is going to be the leader of Israel in these 7. But he had prepared fools, which to his eye, to Jesse's eyes, were people, were kings to lead Israel. But these were only fools. Even Samuel was still holding the cup of anointment when the first one came. Eliab, the highest of them in the whole family, the one that when he passes by here, you nod. And Samuel was now saying the tip of that cup of anointment was going to be tipped by God, not by Samuel. But the cup remained looking up. When the first one who had been specially prepared to be the leader of Israel passed that, where was the cup? Still looking up with oil. The next one, the third one, until the 7th one. And now even Samuel was saying, hey, did I go to a wrong house? He asked Jesse, do you still have any child who is not here? Look, listen to the reply from Jesse. There is another small one who is herding cattle there. Do you have the reply?
Yeah.
Just read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
PP. That's EP 463.
Right.
Point 2.
Right.
Eliab. From the inspection of Samuel.
Yeah.
And the 6 brothers who were in attendance at the service followed in succession to be observed by the prophet.
Right.
But the Lord did not signify his choice of anyone.
Nothing, no sign. Have we ever seen people who will say, today this one is going to preach today? We all come in numbers, ready to receive the message from God. But he doesn't have a single message from God. It's got stories after stories. It doesn't have the gospel of the hour. Because what counts in each period, brethren, is the gospel of the hour.
Yes.
In the time of Noah, you wouldn't preach about going out of Israel, of Egypt. You wouldn't. It was a valueless gospel. In the time of Christ, you wouldn't teach about Noah's ark.
No.
But that's the truth is in the Bible. It's a truth in the Bible. But it has its relevance at a particular time.
Yes.
Amen.
Now what we know is that if there is a prophet of the hour, we'll preach the message of the hour.
Amen.
And nobody will label, he will never wear a name tag to say prophet of the hour. No. We'll be spiritually discerned. If you can't discern, hold your peace. If it is of the hour, those who are the candidates of the kingdom will discern. And you'll be surprised why people are discerning, because your spiritual eyesight is blind. And there is no generation or no period, there is no message of the hour. I have asked people who have received the Sabbath keeping. It was preached by Sister White in 1844. That was the message for that hour. And we continue with it, but still waiting for the message for our hour. For it is the present truth that the flock needs. It says so. There are many, in early writings, page 63, there are many precious truths in the Word of God. There are many precious truths. But it is the present truth that the flock needs. Read it. I'm not going to read it when it is closed. Early writings, page 63. There are many, even in Christ's time, there were many messages. But Christ's message was the message of the hour. Amen. So that even the people who went to listen to Christ, they will say, never man spake like this. Never man spake like him. That was the message of the hour.
Amen.
And someone was saying, isn't it that our hearts rang when you were speaking? It was the message of the hour.
Amen.
Some of these messages, the heart never rang. Beware, we are old. We are used to it. God is love. Yes, yes. God is love. We know. But it doesn't ring. But the message of the hour will ring. When we are about to enter into the kingdom, God brings the message of the hour. Which one is the message of the hour? This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all generations, and the soon come. For a witness, the end shall soon come. Matthew 24, verse 14. It says so. That's the prophet. That's the message of the hour. Remember ye the law of Moses that I gave unto Horeb. That is Malachi chapter 4, verse 4. Of the statutes and judgments. Behold, I'll send you Elijah the prophet before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. That's the message of the hour. Don't come and tell me to preach about love, love, love. We are tired of this love. Love, love, love. We know it's love. We need the message of the hour. Right. Any writings?
Page 63. There are many precious truths contained in the Word of God.
There are many precious truths contained in the Word of truth.
But this is the present truth
that the flock needs now.
Yes.
I've been listening to messages. And someone says, that was a really, really good message to me. I enjoyed. But it's the present truth that the flock needs now. Isadzararin, ranas. Kwete razuro. You know? Sadzararini, razuro. Harina kinasi. Ranasi rona karini, nasi. Kwete mangwana. It's the present truth that the flock needs. I've seen so many interesting truths, and people say they are truths. Yes, they are contained in the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. But it is the present truth that the flock needs now. After the present truth, no sleeping, no going to any further Bible studies. No, you are tired because you are satisfied. Yes. After eating a proper meal, you are satisfied. If you are found eating next door, then there's something wrong with you. You should enjoy what God has given at that hour. So, the truth comes through a prophet. Amen. He has never sent any truth carelessly and comes to you and say, okay, the previous prophet who has died left books. So go back to those books and read. God is not it's not a careless book. It's not a careless God. He knows he needs a living spirit of prophecy. Amen. Go to Amos chapter 3. Amos chapter 3 verse 7. So my job is not to introduce who it is. It's your job to look for who it is. Don't ask who is it. It's your own personal job to look for who is the prophet of the hour. It's not for, even Christ himself did not introduce himself. He was asking Peter, what do people call me? Peter said, some say you are Elijah, some say what? And then he says, what do you call me? You understand? So it was not his job to introduce himself. It was the job of each person to listen to his message and think he's the Son of God. There's no pressure around it. It was not pressurizing anyone. You understand? So don't be pressured as, who is it? Who is it? Who is? I've seen people here, who is it? Who is it? So are you the one? So no, don't put words into people's mouths. We should know what is truth for this time. There is a prophet. There is a prophet. Amos chapter 3 verse 7.
Verse 7.
Verse 7.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing.
Yes.
But he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets.
Do you see what the importance of a prophet? is to have the secret of God. And let me tell you one special sign of a prophet. No one likes a prophet. Do you know that? Of all those 5 talents that are given in Ephesians chapter 4, you know the talents. If chapter 4, read them. Chapter 4, verse 11.
Verse 11.
Yeah? Yeah.
And he gave some
apostles,
some prophets, some
evangelists,
and some pastors, and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints,
right,
for the work of the ministry,
right,
for the edifying of the body of Christ.
Who is not liked there?
Is the prophet.
It's the prophet. Because he's got a secret. You know, Elijah, the prophet, they used to say in his area, there is a man in this area who knows all the secrets of what you are planning before you even know it. You will be knowing. Elijah. That's why he had to go and hide and be fed by ravens. Nobody wanted him. But what he said was truth. He had the power even to shut the rains so that nobody received any rain until the message is received. He had that power. God will listen to whatever he requested and he will do it. You remember Moses? When the Israelites were about to be wiped out, he said, he challenged God. What will the people say? You took all these people out of Egypt to kill them. And the voice of God says, God repented after the prophet challenged. God repented by a prophet. He used a prophet for them to walk out of Egypt. A prophet to preserve them. You remember what was happening? The scenario when they were at the Red Sea. The arm of Pharaoh coming behind them. Yeah? And this side a mountain. And this side there was no escape. In front of them, the Red Sea. They were now entrapped, waiting for Pharaoh's army. I want you to see why a prophet was needed in that scenario.
Yes.
Because if there was no prophet that day, there was going to be chaos. Yes. You remember what they were saying to Moses? Instead of crying to God, what shall we do? What were they saying? They were saying to Moses, did you find no graves in Egypt? They were already dead people. But look, there was a prophet. There was a prophet to steady the ship. They were asking for graves. But there was a prophet to preserve them. Yes. By a prophet, they went out of Egypt. And by a prophet, they were preserved.
Amen.
Eh? They were begging for graves. Did you find no graves? They were now busy searching for graves. If we die, who buries us and which grave? Because they saw themselves all killed by Pharaoh's army. But one thing that was to their advantage, they had a prophet.
Amen.
Amen.
They had a prophet who knew what to do at the right time. When things are hard, when there is a prophet, the prophet asks from God, what shall we do? And God instructed, not Korah and Datan, not all others who were busy looking for graves. God instructed Moses. You see? The secret things of God went to Moses.
Amen.
Because in their life, they had never learnt of a sea dividing. No. They had never seen that miracle. But that miracle was inspired by God to Moses to say, do this, and the sea will... He found a way for them, for their escape where there was no escape. They had an advantage, these people. Now, the army of Pharaoh coming back had all weapons and everything, but one thing they didn't have, a prophet. And the army all perished because they had no prophet. Where there is no prophet, the people perish. You brag about we are no longer have a prophet. Our prophet is in the grave, Sister White, who died a long time. You brag about that. Where there is no prophet, the people will perish. That's why we have these verses in the Bible. To correct people who think the papers of the SOP, the spirit of prophecy, and the Bible are their prophets. God does not use papers. He uses a living person to preserve his people.
Amen. Amen.
Let's get it from the one point. Whether we say hamangwena kwenzeki lokho kuzakwenzeka sela kuzakwenzeka. God signs and says sela. For the mouth of the Lord has said it. Where there is no vision, people perish. Yeah. You brag about a paper being your prophet. The Bible is paper and pen, and it's black and white paper. And it also needs a person to read it and spread it to other people. Do you understand? Where there is no prophet, the people perish. And you see why Moses was there in the midst of Israelites when Pharaoh was coming. It was just to instruct them where to go when things were hard. Where to go when things are. I've seen people when things are hard, when things are obscure, they resort to assembling and voting. Where there is no prophet, people perish. There are no votes when there is a prophet. No. If you see people saying, let's vote, no women ordination, there is no prophet. Check in the Bible, they didn't vote. No. Check even when Sister White was present, they didn't vote. No. It was Sister White who went into a vision to tell them what is the right thing.
Amen.
Where there is no prophet, people perish. You can say we don't want it, we don't need. You will need it for preservation. Amen. You will need it for preservation. Look at the Israelites. They were led out of Egypt by a prophet. And they were protected in the wilderness by a prophet. It's the mouth of the Lord that has said that. Let's see another scenario, a good one. Yeah? We want to prove, can people survive without a prophet? You see what Moses said when they were busy looking for graves? Go to Exodus chapter 14, verse 13.
Verse 13.
Yes, verse 13.
And Moses said unto the people.
You see when they are busy looking for graves, listen to what the prophet says. Yeah. Okay, start from 10.
And when Pharaoh drew nigh,
yeah,
and the children of Israel lifted up their eyes,
right,
and behold, the Egyptians
right,
marched after them.
Do you see?
And they were so afraid.
Do you see how many? The army was a fierce army.
Yes. Yeah.
From Pharaoh. It was a fierce army with all the things, the machinery and everything after them. You understand? But one thing, whether they were so fierce like that, there was no prophet. Yeah. In them, there was no prophet. The small group of Israelites which they were pursuing had a prophet.
Yes. Yeah.
They had a prophet. Right? And what happened? Uh-huh.
And they were so afraid, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, thou hast taken us away to die in the wilderness.
You see? Yes. You see anybody coming at the door, fierce. Now today everybody are dying. You come to somebody, or you come to me and say, did you see there were no graves where we came from in Leeds or in Cambridge? There is no grave. Is it what? Instead of saying, we have a prophet, what does the Lord say we should do? How many people, when you are flying in a plane, when there is a turbulence, where there is no prophet, people perish. People perish. Yeah? Talk to God. He's there to answer. Instead of screaming, start praying. And God will answer. Now these people are looking for graves instead of praying. Right. What does he say?
They said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt,
Yeah.
that thou hast taken us away to
Is
die
it?
in the wilderness.
Is it?
Wherefore hast thou dealt us thus with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that
Yeah.
we may serve the Egyptians?
Yeah.
For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians
You see?
than we should die in the wilderness.
They have started a good trip to go to Canaan, where there is honey and milk. And look, listen to what they are saying. They don't even know what's the answer of Moses.
And Moses said unto the people,
Yeah.
Fear ye not.
Fear not.
And
Listen to the
stand
prophet.
still.
Listen to the prophet. When things are in turmoil,
Yes.
and the prophet is saying, fear
Fear
not.
not.
Fear not. Hush, 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 hush.
Stand still.
Stand still.
And see the salvation
You
of
see
the Lord.
why the prophet says stand still? What were they doing? Running here and there when the army is coming. Stand
Still.
Fear not. It's the time for God to parade. It's the time for God's miracle. Where there is no prophet, people will perish. You see the advantage of people with a prophet. When you read from Revelation chapter 12, it will say that, read it, 12 verse 17. What does it say?
Verse 17.
Verse 17.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman,
Yeah.
and went to make war with the remnant of her seed,
Right?
which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus.
Not all the seed of a woman, of that woman, but the remnant. Which one? The one which kept the commandments. And what else? And have.
Testimony.
You understand? They don't keep the testimony, but they have somebody with them.
Amen.
They have a living testimony. Because if you go to Revelation 19 verse 10, what does it say? Right? 19 verse 10. Because these have the testimony of Jesus.
And I fell at his feet to worship him.
Right?
And he said unto me, Say thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus.
Right?
Worship God. For
Right?
the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
John had the testimony of Jesus.
Yes.
You see, John was a prophet.
Yes.
Had the testimony of Jesus. And he's saying, don't worship me. Worship God. I am a fellow brethren with the testimony of Jesus. What is the testimony of Jesus? The spirit of prophecy.
Amen.
So John was the living spirit of prophecy. Don't see the spirit, you say there's a spirit there, the spirit is. No, no. The spirit is in a person. Let's see Daniel. You know, Daniel is interesting. Why? Because he was the living spirit of prophecy in his time.
Yes.
Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And he said, yeah, people, you are fooling me, this magic, soothsayers and everything, saying they have a familiar spirit. I have had a dream here. But I won't tell you what the dream is because I've forgotten it. You, because you have a familiar spirit, tell me the dream and tell me the interpretation. Because people are used to people say, tell us the dream. Then we will tell you what it means. Now he says, tell me the dream and interpret it. You know the funny things with dreams. Once you say what I dreamt, the mind responds to say, yes, I was in that panorama. Tell me the dream. They came, astrologers and whatever, all those wise people in the world. They came. You know, they are the only people I admire. Why do I admire? They said with their mouth, This now what you want.
We don't know
It does not come to anybody with our spirit.
Yes.
Only when you have the Spirit of God.
Yes.
Hey.
Amen.
They're the only one who admit
Yeah.
that this Spirit should be from God. To interpret what you have said. To say what you have dreamed. Because if you told us the dream, we will qualify. But now, because there is no dream, and then you want also interpretation. And if we don't do it, we are dead. You wanted their head down. And they were going to die. They were going to die. But what I marvel with them, they are better off than the people who are attempting prophecy and attempting to teach from the scriptures. When they don't have the Spirit, they say they have it when they don't. Yeah, because we have been told where the Spirit is. It's with the prophet. You saw the 5 talents. Some? 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 Now, where does God communicate his secret? With the prophet. How many people are bypassing that prophet and wanting also to live? Yeah, today I want to speak about Daniel. They are, those astrologers and the wizards are better off than them. At least they didn't attempt anything. They admitted with their mouth that no other person can do this except was sent by God.
Amen.
Instead of sitting down and saying, let's search for somebody who God has put. Because what are we trying to do when we are wrestling with the scriptures? Who wrote the Bible?
It's called the prophets.
Let's go to 2 Peter. Is it 1 Peter or 2 Peter? 1 verse 19. I think it's 19 and 20. You've got the verse. Yeah? What is it?
We've also
No, what? Which Peter is that?
2 Peter
2 Peter chapter 1 verse 19. Listen to that. Who wrote this Bible that you are talking about? The verses, the Genesis, Daniel, Revelation. Someone saying, I'm coming now today. I want to interpret Daniel 2. And you hear what he's talking about. Rubbish. How can it be a kingdom? How can it be a Daniel chapter 2 without a God's kingdom? When it is there, it is the 7th, it's the 8th kingdom. The how many kingdoms have so far come? Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, iron, and clay, and then the stone is another kingdom, and you are telling me the stone is Christ. You need SOP. A living spirit of prophecy. Because the verse, the Daniel, Revelation, Ruth, who wrote the Bible? Listen to that.
2 Peter 1, verse 19.
Right?
We have also a more
Sure
sure
word.
prophecy.
Yeah.
Whereunto ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shineth in a dark place,
Right?
until the day dawn, and the day star arise in your hearts, knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture
Right.
is of any private interpretation.
It's not private. Who are you? First of all, who are you? Listen, it's of no private interpretation. What does that mean?
For the prophecy,
The reason is that the prophets came not in old times,
by the will of men,
but the will of men. It's not men who wrote the Bible.
No.
Who wrote the Bible?
But holy men of God spake as they
God
were moved by the Holy
raised
Ghost.
the prophets
Amen.
to write the Bible.
Amen.
Now, how dare you want to interpret something that the prophet wrote without a prophet?
Yeah.
You have got to be a prophet
Amen.
to understand what a prophet wrote.
Yeah.
For the same spirit which wrote is the same which dictated.
Amen.
How can you just interpret it out of any privacy? How can you do that? We remember Moses was a prophet. You understand? He wrote the 5 books, you know that? What was inspiring to write the 5 books? Yeah? Who gave it to the people? Who gave the 5 books to the people? Who? It's Moses. Were there no other people? Why did it make sure that the Moses who wrote is the Moses who interpreted it? Because it should be the same spirit which dictated the words. To be the same spirit which interprets.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you use a different spirit, it's private interpretation. Have you heard people saying, all these were nailed to the cross? When Christ is saying, the Jewish economy has not been yet fully comprehended. But someone is busy nailing. Why? Because it's got to be the living spirit of prophets. To understand what the prophets wrote. Yeah? Where?
Yes.
This is why Peter says, this is what Peter is writing there. He's saying it's of no private interpretation. So how dare you attempt to interpret it? Sometimes even opposing the Spirit of God. And I have heard someone say, I don't want even to hear any Ellen White's writing anyone. Listen, Ellen White had the spirit of prophecy. And she was qualified to interpret what the Bible prophets wrote. That's why she wrote those books, Desire of Ages, Spirit. It's the Spirit that wrote the Bible that was now interpreting, putting it clearer for us to understand.
Yes.
Huh? I've seen people carrying Bibles with the verses that condemn them. The carrier, the one carrying when you're carrying it on a wrong day, when God says keep the Sabbath, you are keeping another day. Carrying the Bible which says Sabbath. You are carrying something condemning you. When the Bible says keep the feast, keep the feast, and you are carrying it, nailing the feast, carrying something that is condemning you. When you are carrying a Bible which says, thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not commit adultery, when you are busy with a small house, but with the Bible, you are carrying a book which is condemning you. Know in the first place that the Bible was written by holy men. And it's of no private interpretation. Now let's see another scenario. If Daniel wasn't there, how many people were going to die that day? You see, it's important to have a living spirit of prophets. Daniel rescued those astrologers and the wizards and the wise men. They were rescued by a prophet. Huh? They were rescued by a prophet. You know, not only Moses saved the Israelites, because the Bible says, by a prophet, Israel was preserved. But we can hear now, Daniel saved the astrologers and all those people who were about to be killed. So the purpose of a prophet is to save. Where there is no prophet, people perish. Let's see another prophet. Joseph. You remember Joseph? Yes. There was a dream again. Yeah. You see, God comes in visions.
Yes.
and puts a very troubling vision to a leader.
Yeah.
It was Nebuchadnezzar who had a troubling vision.
Yeah.
And the vision which we are now enjoying, which a prophet interpreted.
Yes.
Now, with Joseph, there is a vision again to Pharaoh. What did he dream of? Let's see. Read from the scriptures. Genesis 41.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed, and they fed in the middle. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored kine and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprang up after them. And the 7 thin ears drowned the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream.
Right. Now, what happened?
And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled.
Right.
And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret the dream unto Pharaoh.
Right.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my fault this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night. I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream.
Now, we know that story, isn't it? Yeah. But what we want to understand is, how does the prophet protect the people? Now, go to verse 11.
Verse 11. And we dreamed in a dream. And we dreamed a dream in one night. I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream.
Right.
And there was with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream did he interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called unto Joseph.
Right.
And they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh.
Right.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream.
Right.
And there's none that can interpret it.
You see, the prophet has been called. Right.
And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
You see? Amen. There was a privilege in Egypt because God has put somebody who was a slave, and now the person was in prison, but he was a prophet of God. That was Joseph. Now Pharaoh has been troubled, and they are going to be in trouble. Really, this land was going to be in trouble.
Yes.
But how does God preserve that? They call Joseph. And Joseph first acknowledges there is a God in heaven. Why didn't he call anybody? He actually says with his own mouth, there is nobody. You see why the importance of having a prophet is because there's something peculiar with that person. That person has got the Spirit of God. That's why God revealed all the secrets. Yeah? And you know what happened? He said, because he had thin cows at the end, 7 of them. And fat cows at the beginning, 7 of them, isn't it? They will have 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. Now this Revelation preserved Egypt. And Egypt was known for that occasion as a bread basket. When Joseph was there. You see, they had to stock all the food for the 7 years of plenty. And in the 7 years of famine, Egypt fed the whole world. Where there is no prophet, the people perish. You see the importance of having a prophet? And then you pronounce and say, we have no prophet. We are left with the Bible and the SOP, and our last prophet is dead. Where there is no prophet, the people perish. Go and revise your phrase. Now, let's see the time of Jesus. Jesus pronounced a curse. Go to Luke chapter 21. Verse 20 to 22.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem...
It's Christ who was pronouncing that in his time. Yeah?
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Those who did not hearken to that voice, who did not flee to Judea, who did not flee to whatever, those who were found were killed. Do you see why those who fled were preserved?
Yeah.
It was the presence of a prophet.
Amen.
And his name was Christ. He had showed them what they should see. When they see that, they should flee. And those who did not hearken to the prophet were killed in the destruction of Jerusalem. It happened. And people were preserved by a prophet. Where there is a prophet, people perish. Now, let us read also a time when messengers were sent to warn people. I think that scenario is in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verse 14. Listen carefully to it.
They mocked the messengers of God.
You see what they have done first? They had polluted the house in Jerusalem. The temple was polluted. And God, before he gave them punishment and judgment, he sent them what? Warnings. Prophets to warn them. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now,
But they mocked the messengers of God and despised his words and misused his prophets until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people till there was no remedy.
right?
Therefore, he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees,
Right?
who slew their young men with the sword
Right.
in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young men or maiden, old men or him that stood before age. He gave them all unto his hand.
It's the prophets who warned them. And if they hearkened to the prophets, they were going to be preserved. But because they mocked the prophets, they killed them. Instead, what happened to them? They were destroyed, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, in our time, what is our spiritual condition? Are we not the ones called Laodicea?
Yes.
Let's see the spiritual condition of Laodicea. And open from Revelation. Right? Revelation chapter 3. Start from verse 14. Let's see how Laodicea is in front of God. Now, because these who were in Jerusalem, in the temple in Jerusalem. Verse 14. What spiritual condition? Are we not the same as what it was in the temple in Jerusalem? Let's read. Verse 14.
14.
Yes?
And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. Out thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth.
Right. Is it our condition? That God has sent a warning that we should, which is either we are cold or hot. But instead, what are we? Lukewarm. Lukewarm to what? To his gospel. Isn't it?
Yes.
If we continue lukewarm to his gospel when he's sending prophets to instruct us to keep this, to stop this and that, how many times were we told to stop eating meat? How many times by the living spiritual prophets who was then alive, Sister White? How many times? And did she write a full chapter of annual feasts of how we should keep it?
Yes.
Did she?
Yes.
Are we hearkening to the voice of the spiritual prophets?
No.
Are we not the ones that he's promising, I will spew thee? Is it?
Yes.
Now, let's hear what Sister White says about our own condition as a church. Our own spiritual condition. Because we are Laodicea, isn't it? Lukewarm. Go to volume 3, Testimonies for the Church, page 252, fourth paragraph. Starts where it says, what greater deception?
What greater deception can come upon human minds than a confidence that they are right when they are all wrong?
Is it the condition that we have? We think we are the best. We are right. We are commandment keepers. We are all right. What greater deception can come upon the mind of people when they think they are all right, when they are all wrong? Right? Whatever.
The message of the true witness finds the people of God in a sad deception.
Yeah?
Yet
Honest in that deception. You know? Have you seen what is called a delusion? A delusion is when somebody thinks is something when he is not. We have a greatest delusion of thinking we are right when we are all wrong. That's what Sister White sees us as a people. Yeah?
They know not that their condition
Is deplorable in the sight of God.
while those addressed are flattering themselves that they are in an exalted spiritual condition. The message of the true witness breaks their security by the startling denunciation of their true condition of spiritual blindness,
Right.
poverty, and wretchedness.
Right?
The testimony,
So
so
cutting.
cutting and severe, cannot be a mistake. For it is the true witness who speaks, and his testimony must be correct.
Amen. That's why we are in a condition which needs, if not only one prophet, but millions of prophets to correct our conditions. If we are in this deplorable state, how can we really profess that there is no prophet? When prophets were sent to Jerusalem, when it was so deplorable, and there was a warning sent by the prophets, and who they mocked, who they derided, who they killed, until God sent the king of the Chaldeans to destroy Jerusalem. What about our deplorable state? How are we in front of God? Sister White says we are in a terrible deception of thinking we are right when we are all wrong. And we are honest in that deception. Have you heard what Laodicea say? You say you are rich and increased with goods. You go to somebody and say, let's read about, I know everything. I know everything. You know what it means? I'm rich and increased. I'm rich and increased. And in need of nothing. But God says, we are wretched, poor, miserable, blind, naked, and know it not. That's the saddest part of it. That what we are, wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked as Laodicea. And we know it not. May we wake up and have the spirit of prophecy. Sister White says, in Testimonies for the Church, for ministers, Testimonies to Ministers, page 475, she saw somebody coming to perfect the church, to prepare a people to stand in the judgment day. Let's hear what she saw.
475 when?
Yeah.
Prophecy must be fulfilled.
Right?
The Lord says,
right.
Behold, I'll send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Did you
come.
Hang on. What did she see? Somebody. Akaona munhu coming to us as a prophet. Yeah? Somebody, yeah?
Is to come in the spirit and power of Elijah.
Yeah?
And when he appears,
right?
May say,
you
are too earnest.
You are too earnest.
You do not interpret
the scriptures in a proper way.
Let me tell you how to teach
you do not know how to interpret it. Let me tell you what your message means. This means the feet were nailed to the cross. They were only a type. They were all pointing to Christ. They were all. How can the whole Passover point to Christ? The whole symbols pointing to Christ. How can it all? How do we keep it in antitype? Because even the Sabbath was kept, and they were killing lambs on the Sabbath, isn't it? Now, here in New Testament, the Sabbath is still there, but we don't have the animal sacrifices. So you don't even take off even the time. May the Spirit of the Lord bless us, so that we can understand the message of the hour. God bless you.